Rescue teams have managed to pull out one person from the debris of the building that collapsed in Goerge in the Western Cape 6 days ago. The multi-storey apartment block was still under construction when it caved in. 81 constructors are believed to have been on site when tragedy struck. At least 13 people have died and another 39 others remain unaccounted for. Newzroom Afrika's Karinda Jagmohan joins us live from the site. Karinda, good to speak to you again this afternoon. Now, the one observation that I've made certainly is that you spoke about the absence of medical teams in the last few, well, I think since Tuesday you indicated, because obviously there was little hope of survivors. There was a survivor today, but let's talk about the families of those that are missing. Have they been present? Is that something that you are able to talk to us about?
Certainly. So with regards to the paramedics and ambulances, we were just mentioning that since Tuesday, that was the last time we saw an ambulance here. We heard those sirens and we saw paramedics because since then bodies had been recovered. But today, when we heard that siren, we heard that rescuer put his thumb up and say alive, that was when the calls were made. The paramedics rushed here. They'd already been on standby, but they rushed here to the site. Then they called for specific assistance they need. So the one paramedic just assessing what equipment he would need. Some of that equipment would be equipment that would assist to push oxygen into the void where the survivor was, as well as water, critical life support that's needed. With regards to the families though, at this point, remember for the past few days, we've been saying that families were frustrated because they didn't have answers. They have answers today. Earlier today, officials went into the community hall, sat down with the families and read out the names of those who were in hospital and those that had passed on, and of course those remain unaccounted for. So some families just left in tears. We didn't take our cameras to that. It's a private moment for the families, but now some have answers about this. One family that is at least just breathing a sigh of relief is the family of the survivor that was just rescued today. He spent 118 hours beneath this concrete rubble. And from what we understand, it was first a sniffer dog and his handler, that had located the survivor. It was Warrant Officer Fisser and his canine Abby. And this canine from last night we saw was very active, wanting to go in and start sniffing around, doing essentially the job of the canine. And she located that there was a survivor trapped in this point. At that point, rescuers went in and started to communicate, shouting. That's the time when we saw the siren go off. And then they heard that voice. So it took a long time then for the rescuers to actually just find a means to get through. Actually, not a long time in comparison to how long it's been taken to dig and drill through this rubble. In fact, we were told it would be hours before the survivor could be extracted from the rubble. But then we saw just within an hour of him being located, they managed to get him to safety. And we hear he's okay. He's not bleeding as yet, but he's going to hospital for essential scans and the life support he needs. I'd like you to take a listen to the head of disaster management, Karinda, just briefing us on the immediate aftermath of as we saw him taken on the stretcher to the ambulance, the cheers as well. Dinah, then we just pulled him aside, and this is what he had to say about the rescue.
We started going into the site because the strategy was to clear every floor. We lifted the different floors, and then we got to quite a solid area. So overnight, these floors were lifted over the last 2 nights. We got to a solid floor. We're not sure which one. It's 3, I think. 3, yeah. At 3, we decided to look from the side because where the side broke. And one of our dogs, Willie, the dog handler, his dog indicated. And then we spoke down there and we actually heard the person. And he was quite alert and he was sounding okay. He told us he had some weight on his legs, so we were very scared that, if we release him too quickly. So we got surgeons in to make sure they'll work against that. And then we found another hole closer to him. We broke the hole open, cut the rebar out, and when we accessed him, we thought it might, because normally what you get is a lot of steel all over the show, but fortunately that wasn't. So we actually got him out probably about 2 hours quicker than we thought we would. I can't speak to his medical condition, but He's alert. He was moving quite, got out quite easily. So yeah, we're very, very happy.
Now, in the immediate aftermath of that, there was celebration, of course, and it was actually a short celebration, just a matter of minutes. But I must tell you, the scenes where these rescue personnel who have been in this rubble, so they're covered with dust, just wiping some tears, because for them it had been a long time, and this was that glimmer of hope, because they've kept saying this was a rescue mission. So that's what's happening. But that after that very short celebration, immediately they've gotten back to work, and around us you could hear the construction. I'm not sure if you can see the amount of dust just floating around, but that's what's happening now. But the rescue has somewhat energized. It's energized the team, and you can see really just the rescue workers working much swiftly, much faster as well. At the same time, counseling has to be offered, so that's an ongoing procedure. We've just managed to also, as we were there, just see some of the disaster operations center, and really, as the rescue personnel do their work on the ground, what we know is that they're also supported by dozens of volunteers that are here to assist them, as well as to assist the families. And I'm going to take you now just to speak to the Provincial Minister of Health and Wellness in the Western Cape, Professor Nomafrench Mbombo. She'll just also be able to indicate what has happened. But before we speak to her, I must also remind you that at the same time, there's another aspect outside of what's happening at the site, and that's the legal aspect. So that's the aspect of looking at the issues of the investigation. So let me just also go and speak to the Professor Nomafrench Mbombo. So we're going to just quickly grab her as well. The Provincial Minister of Health and Wellness, thank you so much for speaking to us. We saw you jump into that ambulance with our miracle survivor. Tell me about how he's doing and your communication with him.
It was exciting just to have at least, even if it's one person, after 5 days. Oh, sorry. After 5 days. Yeah. After 5 days. Yeah. Just after 5 days. All the way to the Goerge hospital, the patient was talking, sharing his ordeal and his experience, because he was sharing that he was with the others there. Which they were taken out, which is just yet now. They were taken out, one of them Monday, other one on Wednesday. In terms of the condition, according to the emergency team, the vital signs are fine, but it still has to be assessed at the hospital to check if there are any broken bones and so forth. So it was exciting.
So when he was in the ambulance, can you just tell us about his physical condition and what he was saying to you?
He told us who he was, from where, and also sharing that, just like others, because yesterday I went to the hospital and have a conversation with some of the survivors. Like the inside there, of course it's dark, and also you are lying like as if you are in the coffin, because you can't move. The slabs, they are all over. To be on your back throughout for that time. I think for him, what is traumatizing for him, according to him, is about he was with the others, but on the other side, like they were communicating at the time. He heard when they came to fetch the others. But in this case, the team didn't know that there was another one. Unlike with the ones that I communicated with yesterday at the hospital, one says that there were 4 of them, and he was the one who was doing was an interpreter for the others. And then when they came, the team, they found those ones who was interpreting 4, but unfortunately for him, he ended up not being able to be fetched, but they knew he was there, but they promised them, we are coming back. So the excitement for him is about, they came back. They came back. And when they came back, they told him, because we've got cameras who could be able to see the distance, they told him that we won't be able to get you through this side. We'll have to find another way. So another way was about to drill through the slab that was here. According to him, he could feel the slab, because it was when he opened his eyes, he could touch it. And unfortunately, the scaffolds were on top of him. He couldn't be able to move and do anything. So when they came back, he had, it was like a long time, and then he had the drilling. And the drilling, he says, that was just here on top of him. And then he just knew that, okay, they're going to finish him soon so that because they don't know his whereabouts. But the excitement, he says, look at me, not even a scar. They drilled on top of me. They drilled on top of me, but they came back. But now realizing that they came back after 2 days, but that they came back, it gave him hope. No matter how his condition was they came back. But now for the health workers, whilst we as the public, we get the information once, like how many bodies, once it has been confirmed by the forensic, we need to understand that the rescue team and everyone who's there, they might have picked up that there is a human because they're using sniffer dogs, like they dig, they drill, and then they sniffer dog, and then pick up there's a human. In order for them to access, it might take longer. So they will have known maybe in the morning that there is a human being that is there, whether alive or not, because the sniffer dogs will have picked it up. But the trauma to them is about, that will know there's a human being, but it's about 4 meters, or it might take a day in order to get to that person. That is quite emotional, tense, in terms of there being the tensions around them. So that's why we make sure that we have the counseling services for everyone who's here on the platform, health workers, volunteers, everyone. But again, as I indicated earlier, you must understand that this is an emotional kind of environment. So when one life is being one, it's an excitement. So that's why someone was chopping onions. I'm wearing the glasses because it was really emotive.
It really was so emotive, and it's energized.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Nomafrench Mbombo. She is the Provincial Minister for Health and Wellness, painting such a beautiful picture. Thank you. And yes, someone, I understand, everybody was in tears at that point, and there you go. He says, they came back for me, they came back for me. He could feel the drilling, but they came back for him. He is now in hospital receiving those important scans as well. And we understand that his family will also be escorted to hospital. But before his personal details can be shared with the public to celebrate the miracle survivor, his family and the survivor will undergo some critical counseling, as the MEC said, critical because of the manner in which he waited for 118 hours for him to be rescued. He could feel the drilling right on his head. He wondered if they would come back, and they came back. Now he's recovering in hospital. I'll keep you updated through the day. At now what's been a miracle site, you can see the construction, the rescue mission continues.